I went through over 500 of your most burning questions about Citlali. So in this video, we're going to talk about if she's still worth it for Nod Krai, what accounts and characters benefit from her the most to help you decide if you should get her, and how to make the most out of her if you do. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The version 5.8 banners featuring Citlali and Anefa are here. If you're planning on spending on these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for all of my top-ups for over a year, and I have spent thousands of dollars on my account. They are 100% safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals that you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews and excellent customer service. And right now you can get the limited edition discount pack for an even bigger discount than normal to celebrate the launch of these banners. It is extremely easy to use. Just click the pack that you want, enter your UID as well as your region, press top up now, and you'll get your Genesis crystals in just a couple seconds. Officially minutes, but that only took a couple seconds. With lootbar.gg, you get up to 25% off. And if you join VIP, you get loads of free coupons, so you can save even more. New users will also be able to get a further 10% discount from clicking my link in the description, as well as an exclusive offer just for this channel with a $2 welcome. It is partnerships like these that will allow me to continue bringing the content that I do to you, as well as support my family of 5. And as I said, I've been using them unsponsored for over a year for all of my purchases. So whether you're buying for Genshin or for any other Hoyo games, make sure to click my link to support the channel and your wallet. Thanks again to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. First things first, what did this character even do? Why is she so good? Why is everyone always talking about her? First of all, she has a 20% Hydro and Pyra resistance shred built into her kit at Constellation 0 before you even touch any of her skills, before you use an artifact, before you level up anything. That is just built in. So very, very valuable 20%. I know 20% doesn't sound like a huge amount with Escoffier giving 45, but it is enough. 20% shred gets less valuable the more you have of it, so 20% is enough that it's all you'll really ever need. Not that more isn't valuable, such as in the case of Shalonin, but 20% is enough to get you where you need to be as like a minimum amount. Second of all, she gives a 40% damage bonus through the scroll artifact set, and a lot of people are asking, well, what if I have Shalonin on scroll? The answer is Citlali really needs a lot of energy, so you really want to be putting her on scroll. Even if you're double dipping and Yansan ends up on scroll too, for most accounts you'd rather have that, because scroll also gives her a bunch of energy. So the general recommendation is just to use her on scroll anyways, and to use Shalonin on Petra or Shalonin on instructors and keep Citlali on scroll. She's the one who needs the energy. She's the one who should prioritize scroll. And in the case of Yansan, it's going to be very hard for either Citlali or Yansan to get rid of scroll. You can technically get there with either. If you choose to go that route, I think Tenacity is the way. On the Tulpa, I ended up using Tenacity Citlali, but I did not burst every rotation because it's very hard to get that amount of ER, so just go scroll is your answer. The other thing that's useful for Citlali is her cryo application. She doesn't have an absolute crazy amount of cryo application. It is very similar to the cryo application that Rosaria or Escoffier or even C6 Kaya gives. C6 Kaya actually gives the most out of those, fun fact. But it is enough for Moika to melt her charge attacks and do her main combo. She gives a small shield, which is a nice shield. It is good. It's good to have a shield, but it's probably going to get deleted by any strong attacks. And unless you have her Sig, it's not very strong. And you're usually going to be using Thrilling Tales because Thrilling Tales is broken. On the first rotation, Thrilling Tales is actually noticeably better than her signature weapon, but with multiple rotations, her signature weapon does come out just higher. You can see a nice little weapon ranking here done by Flip on YouTube. You can check his link out down in the comments. Sacrificial Fragments, do not use it, 93% of the Thrilling Tales, 100%. Her own weapon only a 2% bump over Thrilling Tales. Not worth it for a 5-star weapon. Why don't you even start R5? 97% if you have it. Even at R1, it could be worth considering, especially if you're not managing cooldowns, bad at rotations, but generally Thrilling Tales is going to be the best option, and you do not need to level it. You can leave it at level 1 just make it refinement 5. For stats, you want to use ER, EM, EM, and look for EM and ER artifact sets. Mostly go for ER. EM only contributes to her shield strength. It does not matter for her buff. What stats should I be focusing on if you don't want her shields? What's EM going to do for Citlali teams apart for strength shields? It does personal damage. So if you use her burst and skill, you can melt her burst, which actually has pretty good multipliers. And so you can clear small waves in the Spiral Abyss, but this is really only a speedrunning thing. So the only thing that's going to really benefit your team is just making sure you have enough ER to burst on cooldown no matter what happens. So do not worry about EM because her shield is not going to be all that strong anyways. Just focus on ER. Energy. How much ER do you actually need? If she's the only Natlin on your team, you need 230% ER on solo Krai to burst every rotation. If you have 2 Natlin, 205, 3 Natlin, 190, Shallonen or Fav reduces ER requirements by 25 to 30%. And then without scroll, and then there's some other options here. This is also to flip on YouTube. Basically build ER and a bunch of substats and burst every rotation. That's the main thing. Someone asked about DPS Citlali. The answer is Plunge Melt is going to be her best DPS team. She actually has pretty good scalings based on her EM. So if you really want to play DPS Citlali, Plunge Melt's going to be the answer. That's going to be using Xiangling as the power applicator. Citlali, Bennett, Xiangling, and I don't know, like, oh, it's going to have to be Shenyan. So Shenyan, Bennett, Xiangling, and then you're going to be Plunge Melting. If I use Cinder City, what artifacts should my Shallonen use on Mav Premium teams? You can choose either Instructors or Petra. Petra, you do have to make sure she does pick up the crystal, but it is slightly better than Instructors, but you can use either. But Petra, if you really want to be optimal, just make sure you pick up the crystal. For teams, who is worth getting Citlali for? I think if you main Chaska, you should go for Citlali. If you really like Chaska, go for it. If you're considering Chaska Cons or Citlali, probably Chaska Cons, assuming you have some copies of Iansan and you have a Farina Bennett. I would probably go for Chaska Cons over Citlali, but if you just want more characters and stuff, then going for Citlali is really worth it for Chaska in my opinion. If you're playing Melt, it is super worth it to get Citlali, Arlecchino, Mavuika, Gaming, etc. I say go ahead and get Citlali. It's going to be a really impactful difference for your teams, for your accounts. And we're going to get this as we go because we're recording this after the Nod Krai beta is out. So we have a bit better of an idea as to what is coming in Nod Krai. And I do really personally think that Mavuika Arlecchino is going to still be worth it for Nod Krai if you want to keep playing Mavuika and Arlecchino. If you want to drop them, if you don't want to keep playing them, you can drop them. But if they're like the strong characters in your account, getting Citlali is a big impact for Mavuika and Arlecchino. I did test Arlecchino with Inefa. It was a bit worse than Citlali. If you're considering Flynn's, getting Inefa, maybe that's okay. But I really think Citlali just makes a big enough difference to Melt teams that it is worth getting here, even with Nod Krai coming. Now that we have Flynn's and Lauma Calcs, they're not that crazy strong. They're not continue the trend of the power creep, at least right now, as of recording this in the first version of the beta. It's not crazy strong. It is balanced strong, like neither Flynn's nor Llama is weak, assuming you have their good teams, but it's not crazy. Mavuika with Melt, Arlecchino with Melt are still some of the best teams in the game, even with those new characters coming out. And yes, it might be a bit more difficult to brute force things now than it was before, especially for Mavuika, but also for the other Melt characters. If you want to keep playing them, getting Citlali is the way to go. And the team, of course, is going to be Pyro Carry plus Bennett plus a flex, and the flex can be Shallonen, Sucrose, Iansan, Escoffier. The combos do change with Escoffier, and you can also switch out Bennett for one of the flexes. It's going to be worse, but it is doable. Now for freeze, I do not recommend getting Citlali at all. I think there's stronger options and options that are better for your account that are free. For any of the characters for freeze, I don't think that Citlali is worth getting. And then for Mualani, so I have here the joke, I heard you like missing vapes. Tons of Mualani mains ride or die by the Mavuika Citlali core, and because Citlali, again, she does reduce Hydro Res by 20%, so it is technically Mualani's best team. I have found it more inconsistent, but other Mualani mains do find it consistent, so you can go ahead and get Citlali for your Mualani if you're using, if you want to have all your Mualani options, if you want to really main Mulaney. I've had a hard time, but I do think it is potentially worth it if you're a real Mulaney main. You want to get the best Mulaney teams. Citlali is part of it, but you're gonna have to learn it and figure it out and really main it. For Hu Tao and Lini, I think it's cope. It can work, but it's cope. It's kind of okay for yoimiya. If you use a Escoffier, there's a special combo where you have to wait. I don't really like it all that much. And then just a quick note, using Cryo and Hydro together may be tempting to use like Farina and Citlali on the team because she's going to reduce Hydro res for Farina. It's just not really worth it because you're going to miss out on melts and vapes because the Cryo and Hydro react together and then remove the aura completely. So you're not going to get either a melt or a vape. And on top of that, you might shatter with Muika's burst instead of melting or vaping, which is going to be really bad. So generally refrain from using Cryo and Hydro for pyro carries. Obviously using Cryo Hydro on a freeze is going to be fine. This is another calc from Flip. This is Muika Vape with Farina versus Muika Melt with Citlali. 120k DPS versus 106k DPS. So based on this, definitely worth it to go for Citlali over vaping with Farina. Rosaria is going to be in between these two. It's not that big of a jump from Rosaria, but the AoE application of Citlali, how it follows you around and isn't in a circle impact, as well as the resistance shred, is going to just be just more valuable than Rosaria overall. But if you really don't want to get Citlali, you can cope with Rosaria. It's more like it's in between. It's like 110 or 112k DPS for Rosaria. How close is Farina C2 to C0 Citlali for Muika, Shalon, and Bennett team? It's about the same is the answer. C2 Farina is about the same as Citlali. Is Citlali next best slot for Skirk when she has Calamity of Ishu? I think you're still better off going with Escoffier. Actually, are you better off? No, you're not. It's still better off to go with Shenhe or Yelan, but it's very slight. The main problem is that Citlali passes Thrilling Tales to Escoffier, which, while not terrible, it isn't passing it to Skirk. So it isn't as strong, as well as Citlali doesn't buff Skirk a huge amount. She does give the 40% damage bonus, but that's it. That's the only buff she gives. And then the Thrilling Tales to Escoffier. And it does enable Ishu, you're right, but it's not as good as Shenhe. It is pretty close to Yelan and Mona, though. So Shen is the best, Yelan and Mona are next. I just wouldn't wish for Citlali for Skirk, but if you have it, it is good. Can Citlali work well in a national team replacing Sing Cho? If not, which constellations would make her better than him, if any? I don't know why you're so hell-bent on putting Citlali in a national team. You're just trying to vape or melt, I guess? You're trying to melt Citlali? I mean, C2 is going to make her better than Sing Cho in a national team if you just have to do that, but she's not attack scaling, she's EM scaling, so she doesn't benefit from Bennett, so you're just better off using a different team. I don't know. The answer to this question is join our Discord and get help with that team building question. Really appreciate the effort you put into your guides. How much of an upgrade is Citlali to Muika's teams? And if we were skipper for the upcoming non-Krai characters, which characters would best fill the gap? Not having Citlali supposedly leaves. Thanks. If you want to skip her for non-Krai characters, you can cope with either C6 Kaya or Rosaria, or Escoffier. All of those are options for Muika Melt if you have those. And it's about a 10 to 15% increase from other teams, plus a really big quality of life increase. So it will feel like an even bigger increase than 10 to 15%, especially on the first rotation. So there you go. Is she the best support for Gaming? Yes. What other character would be best for the team? Bennett and Flex. So could be Shalonen, Sucrose, or Shanyan. Does she work with Lini and Melt? Some Lini mains say yes. In general, no, though. Lini applies too much pyro. But is it worth building her as a sub DPS? She's already a sub DPS. She scales really well off of EM, so just using EM is good. I'm dying to play Lini, my boy, with a shielder. Will she be the best option? Yes, she will be the best shielder for Lini. I will say, though, I am not your best source on Lini specifically. I can't vibe with him. I don't like his playstyle, so I would recommend going onto the Lini main subreddit, joining whatever Discord server, our Discord server, Lini Discord server, and kind of getting on the research bandwagon for Lini because he's kind of a niche character. It was really hard for me to find reliable information for him, and it's really hard for me to test him because, again, I play on controller and I don't like playing him regardless. So if you find out some stuff about Lini, message me on Discord. I actually tried to get a hold of a Lini main for my Lini guide because I don't feel like I know him enough. I couldn't get a hold of a Lini main that really knew their shit. so I had to skip making a Linny guide. So regardless though, Linny Citlali technically is his best shielded option, and it's still quite good. Even if you're not getting tons of melts, at least you're getting the 20% pyro resistance shred. Who is the better teammate for Arlecchino, Citlali, or Chevreuse? It is Citlali. Chevreuse is pretty competitive on sheets, but Citlali overtakes in practice, and also with any amount of vertical investment, good artifacts, weapon, etc., then Citlali starts to pull ahead. How efficiently can Citlali alone fill Moika? Moika's fighting spirit. The only time Citlali doesn't fill Moika completely, her fighting spirit, is if you end the rotation with Moika's burst and not doing any charge attacks, and then in the next chamber, you're not doing any. And same with Stygian Onslaught. Your Moika's not starting with her burst, but once you start going with your rotation and you're actually using all your charge attacks with Moika, that combined with Citlali's burst fills Moika's fighting spirit 100%. So it's mostly like a quality of life thing, and I have always in practice find Citlali filling Moika efficiently enough herself, her fighting spirit. Should I get her for Moika, or is Moika overload with Oron fine? Should you get her from Moika? It is her best team. Is Moika with overload with Oron fine? Yes, although if you're not using Yansan, it is a little bit cope, and you do want to learn Moika's actual combo. Check out my Stygian Onslaught Dire Clear to see the combo you're going to be using. I didn't use the overload team, but that is the same combo. Will she be power crept, or is she safe to the pull in the meantime, as in 6.x? The only possibility of Moika being power crept, and same with Citlali, is very, very late into Nod Krai. So 6.6, 6.7. So, and that would be with Nicole and Alice possibly being a cryo and pyro melt duo. Even then, it's not guaranteed to power creep Moika, and even then, it's not necessary that Nicole will replace Citlali. You might use both of them together. So I think she is very safe to pull, even going into Nod Krai, but there is a chance she gets power creep, but if she does, it will be very late into 6.x, so I think you'll get a lot of use out of her by then, and even then, you might just use them together. Rotation. As someone with major skill issue, a detailed explanation of the rotation for Citlali, Moika, Shalon, and Bennett. Is there any tips for players with skill issues in general? So you start with Moika skill, then you use Shalon and skill, then you use Bennett skill and burst, then you use Citlali skill and burst, then you throw in an auto attack, so skill, auto attack, burst, then you use Moika burst, you charge attack with Moika 3 times, jump, slam, charge attack 3 times, jump, slam, and then I think you charge attack once, jump, slam. Where was it? Yeah, 1 charge attack, jump, slam. 3 times charge attack, jump, slam. 3 times charge attack, jump, slam. 1 time charge attack, jump, slam. There you go. Meta. If I don't have any decent crowd characters in my account, should I pull Citlali or prioritize a Scoffier? How useful is she for Novelette? She's not useful for Novelette really, unless you get a Scoffier. Like, it's okay, but she will be good for Moika and Arle, so I wouldn't get her to be like a cryo character on your account. That would be a Scoffier, and maybe you kind of want Skirk, but mostly a Scoffier. I don't know. I think if you're looking for like cryo coverage, then it's a Scoffier. But if you're trying to maximize your Moika and Arle, go for Citlali. The other thing about Novelette, though, is that a Scoffier is really only good for Novelette if you have Citlali. So if you want Citlali to be good for both Moika and Novelette, you need both Citlali and a Scoffier. As a comeback free-to-play player and recently pulled Moika, should I pull for Citlali? Yes. Unless you don't love Moika and you really love some Nodcry characters. Flynn's really needs a Nefa. Lauma probably really wants Nefer. Everyone will want Columbina. So if you really like Moika, get Citlali. You're not going to regret having that best team. But if you're like okay with Moika, then you can cope with C2 Rosaria and then get some Nodcry characters that you like more. Citlali's unit that potentially has little to no value on account if they're not playing one of a small number of characters. True. How seriously do you take this when giving general recommendations, rating unit strength, knowing that if she's perceived to be very strong without context, uninformed players will pull her without a team to use her in? You should never pull without a plan, no matter what. There's just not enough universal characters in the game to pull without a plan. No character should be pulled without a plan. Even Shalonin, which a lot of people consider the most universal character in the game, there are plenty of accounts that cannot use her very effectively. Never pull without a plan. That includes Citlali, that includes Shalonin, that includes Escoffier, Skirk, Moika, anyone. Always pull with a plan if you care about meta. If you're going to look at a tier list, I don't know, it's kind of like If you don't even listen to it, it's not my fault. So at least watch the actual video. I've got Moika and Skirk both with their signature, and now I'm in trouble, as if I should wait for Escoffier, who maybe reran at the same time as Columbina, and some meta characters, or should I pull Citlali complete free to play? Skirk, Farina, Mona, Mona and Charlotte, and the other is Bennett, Xinyan, and Rosaria. Shenyan, halfway between Shanyan and Xinyan, is my current team with a ping of 300 or higher mobile. Damn. Well, if you're using Moika and not having any Natlan characters on the team, you don't have Xilonen or Yansan, then you really need Citlali. So my recommendation is to get Citlali, skip Flynn's, maybe consider Llama if she's looking really good, and then try and get Columbina and Escoffier on the rerun. You probably should have enough for both. If you skip Nefer and Durin and whatever, I don't think Durin will be an upgrade to these two teams, but keep an eye on the channel as I'll update you with more information as things go. Now that Natlan's almost over, will Citlali work with upcoming Nod Krai synergies? Nope. Clearly they're going with Electro, Hydro, Dendro focused lineup in Nod Krai, so where at least Citlali stands in this, she won't work with future characters, but she is best in slot with the best character in the entire game, Moika. So if you want to use her with Moika, if you just really like Arle, it is still worth it to get Citlali, even though she won't work with the future Nod Krai synergies, and that's okay. She might, if Alice is indeed a melt character, she might still work with Alice, even if you do want Nicole. How big is an improvement is she compared to Farina Moika teams? Check the comparison earlier. Considering Nicole is supposedly a cryo character being released just before Alice, then isn't it reasonable to assume she'll be a better Citlali? She might be, but she might be a different Citlali, and you also might really want to ideally use them together. Anything is possible, and we really don't know, and she's rumored to come out in 6.6, which is almost an entire year away, a calendar year, 360 days or so. That's a really freaking long time to not use melt. So sure, if you don't have Moika right now, I would not recommend getting Citlali in preparation for Alice maybe being a melt character. But if you have Moika, I would definitely not wait for Nicole to see if she'll maybe be a better Citlali for Moika, when, for all we know, you'll want to use both of them together with Moika, or both of them together with Alice, or who knows. Pull for what you is going to, pull with the plan, and you have to know what's going on to have a plan. So if you want Moika, it's good to get Citlali. If not, then don't bother, right? How can Moika plus Arlecchino plus Citlali melt improve with new teammates? What would you like to see in Nod Krai in terms of teammates? For this team, they're already so far ahead of the rest of the game in terms of teams, like so far ahead, even a solid amount of Skirk ahead of Skirk, who is so far ahead from Veresa. So this is a ridiculous team. This team does not, like, especially the Moika variant, does not need more teammates, but if Nicole really is a melt support, she could easily be that flex slot and replace Escoffier / Xilonen / Eonson and be the optimal amount there. Vertical investment. So what is best? Is it worth to go for constellations on Citlali? The answer is yes. Her constellations are absolutely huge. She gets a 16% increase from C1, which is not terrible, but she gets a 45% increase from C2, which is very similar to Moika's C2. So that is absolutely huge. It's almost equal to go for Citlali C2 as it is to get Moika C2. So if you are considering Citlali C2, it is worth it. If you're still going for in a C1 R1 invested account that has power and hydro carries with a close release of Nod Krai characters, it's for cryo, I don't know. But and it is kind of, but I just don't think Citlali is worth it for cryo in general. It's all right. Sorry, hydro carries. It is worth it for, like, I guess Mualani and stuff like that. It would be worth it. Yeah, C2 is, the bottom line is still, it's worth it. C2 being a 45% increase from Moika is absolutely nuts. Definitely worth going for if you're a Dolphin player. Help with wishes. The question that everyone wants to ask, who should I pull for, Citlali or Xilonen, provided we play with Moika and some other Melt Freeze teams, and also we have Kazuha and Sucrose. This person says Xilonen should be first, Citlali should be second. I completely disagree. I think Citlali should be first, Xilonen should be second. I think Xilonen is the more replaceable character on Moika teams. Sure, you can use Rosaria, and it's okay, but you can use Sucrose, you can use Yansan, you can use Escoffier instead of Xilonen and get the same or potentially even higher DPS than with Xilonen. So definitely more worth it to go for Citlali first, then Xilonen second, and only if, again, it's even worth it, because especially if you pulled Moika recently, you have at least C2 Yansan, in which case you're about on par with C0 Xilonen anyways. Should I pull for Citlali? I have wishes for just one pity. I have Moika and Arle, but not Krai is around the corner, so I don't know. Again, it is worth it for Moika to get Citlali. Do you want to invest in Moika, or do you want to invest in some of the new Nod Krai characters? It is up to you. It is worth it to get Citlali, but you can't. She is one of the strongest characters in the game, Moika, after all, so if you want to cope with something else, she probably will be able to get by just fine as you save for some new cool characters that you love. If I currently have C3 R1 Moika, C6 Yansan, C5 Bennett, etc., would it still be beneficial to get Citlali or even C0? Yes, absolutely. I completely disagree with this person who said if you have C6 Diona, you should use the Primos elsewhere. C6 Diona is not a replacement for Citlali in any way, shape, or form. Sure, you can melt the burst, sure, she gives some EM, but it is not nearly enough to melt all of the charge attacks, and C3 R1 Moika at least gets C0, and if you're actually a spender and you're spending on something, C2 Citlali is definitely worth it, but I'm not ever going to recommend spending on the game just for the heck of it, but numbers-wise, it's very much worth it to pick up a copy of Citlali for yourself and get C2 if you want. I'm on guaranteed. I got Skirk and Mona single 10 pull. I'm not willing to lose this guaranteed for Citlali for Moika Premium. When I saw the non-credit characters, am I going to be fine if I skip Citlali? Well, you said you're not willing to it, so you're not willing to do it, so it's fine. Are you going to be fine? 600k melt is okay. It's not bad. Are you going to be able to brute force things when Moika isn't favored? Probably yes. You might have to compensate by getting really good builds, playing really well. Are you going to be fine? Yeah, you're going to be fine. This wasn't really a question. You should probably still get Citlali for, for meta, but you're going to be fine if you don't. Like I said, it's worth it to go for your favorite characters if you really want, especially if you really like the Nodcrit characters. I think they look awesome. I'd probably, I would probably skip her. There's other good Moika teams. I have C0R0 Mav with Shalon and Bennett and Rosaria. Should I go for Citlali or save for Nod Krai? I was looking to mainly for Llama for Hyperbloom. Nahida Yolan. I've been seeing some calcs where you replace Nahida and you're potentially getting a 25k DPS increase according to Zajef. So you can wait a couple weeks until we see a little bit more info on Llama, and as this get confirmed with other theory crafters, as other theory crafters have been confirming it or have been calcing it a bit lower, Citlali will be a similar increase to your Mav team as Llama is for your Hyperbloom team, but your Hyperbloom starts at a much lower rate, like a much lower value overall. So I think it's probably more worth it for your account to go for the Hyperbloom team if you really have to choose between those. And yeah, Llama will replace Nahida on that team. I have 0 Natlan 5-star units. I have all of Fontaine. Should I acquire some units for Natlan? No, just save for Nod Krai. Don't worry about it. You don't have anything. Don't worry. It's too late now. Just save for Nod Krai. Do you think developers are going to continue to push freeze and other crown reactions? If so, for a crown skipper with no attachment to any of the 5 stars, would you recommend to supplement an account? If you want to supplement an account, I mean, I think Skirk and Escoffier is going to be your best bet for future proofing in terms of cryo. I don't think Citlali is your bet, but you might just be able to get away with skipping cryo. Probably though, on the rerun of Skirk Escoffier, they'll shill cryo again. It just depends. Are you okay with not clearing the Stygian Onslaught that one time that they release and rerun Skirk? If you're okay with that, then fine, just keep skipping cryo. But if you really want to have some cryo coverage, probably Skirk Escoffier is going to be your best bet. So far, we haven't seen anything else for cryo in Nod Krai except for maybe Nicole at the very end. C1 R0 Moika, no Citlali, high pity. Go for C2 Mav and save for Nod Krai. Oops, it's over. Or wait and go for Citlali. Either one's fine. I think C2 Mav's a little bit better, but Citlali is good too. And saving for Nod Krai is fine as well. C0R1 Shalon and C6 Bennett, and a few odd choices for the third slot. Rosaria, Ayaka, Diona. Yeah, Rosaria or Ayaka are both fine there, so you're fine. You missed Moika C2, but just decide, do you want to invest in Moika and make her even stronger, or do you want new teams? Citlali will be a nice increase and will be worth the pulls, but you have to judge that for yourself if it's worth the pulls for a good increase or if you really enjoy the new character. For free-to-play, would Yolan or Citlali be more valuable account, considering you have both Xingqiu and Layla? Well, Layla is not a replacement for Citlali for melt teams. Xingqiu is an okay replacement for Yelan, but to say if either one would be more valuable to your account, it depends on what else you have. I wouldn't get either just because. Depends on the account. Always pull with a plan. 3 main teams, Novelette, Arle, Skirk. I'll pull Escoffier when she comes. The question I'm bent is whether I get Citlali or Yelan so that most of my teams benefit. Novelette, Arle, Skirk. Go with Citlali for Arlecchino. I think she needs that more than Skirk needs Yelan, and Novelette doesn't really care about either, because you're going to want to get something else for Novelette. This is like your 3 Stygian teams if you think about it that way, so you're not really going to be sharing Escoffier across Skirk and Arlecchino, so don't bother with, just don't bother with Yelan. Get Escoffier for Skirk and get Citlali for Arlecchino, and don't bother with Yelan, in my opinion. Should I pull Citlali for Arlecchino and wait to see if Inefa has a new bust in slot? Well, I just released my video. I think Citlali's still better. So unless you're going to be getting Flynn's, I would stick to Citlali for Arlecchino. Is Citlali C2 worth it considering everything that's coming? My plans for the future are Durin, Nicole, and Alice. I'm not a free-to-play Welkin Battle Pass. I know I will get the characters I want, but there's always characters that just end up amazing me if I know I'm not going to play them. Citlali C2 seems amazing, but I don't know if it's worth it at this moment in the game. It doesn't say if you have Muika or not. If you have Muika, C2 is amazing. If you love Muika and you want to make her really strong, Citlali is totally worth it at C2. But if you really want to invest into Nicole and Alice stuff and really save until then that is totally valuable as well. I don't think you can really go wrong with either choice. It's just a question of, do you really want to invest in really incredible teams for Muika, or do you want to just do really well with Muika and save for other stuff and make them incredible down the line? That's just up to you. I have Muika, Arlecchino, Chaska, Mualani, Shilonen, Novelet, and Skirk. Should I get Citlali or not? I can barely gain tier. Muika, Arlecchino, Chaska, I think so. You're going to make Muika way better. And it's really good with Chaska, and it's good with Mualani, and it's good... I don't know. Do you have Escoffier? It's kind of the same thing. Do you want to upgrade your Muika, Arlecchino, and Chaska teams? Do you want to upgrade them? Or are you okay with them? If you want to upgrade them, get Citlali. If you want to upgrade Skirk, make sure you save for Escoffier. And if a new Nodcraig character has caught your eye, then make sure to save for them and just make sure you get Columbina when she comes. Is it better to become an alcoholic like Citlali or become a gacha gambling addict to cope with the pain of life? I think that the answer to this, and this is very important, just listen to me very carefully. I have one thing to say to you, and this is very important. This is going to help you a real huge amount. You just have to...
Citlali, eats Papa! Get him! Hooligans! I told you we should have been ready easily! Morons! Thought you could take me on? No.